Hi there, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Stitches and Stencils, along with 31 Days of Cutfiles with MK and Janet. That's me. Today, Stitches and Stencils is a project that I am doing with Sandy over at State Goddess and MK on her channel. And basically, we are the fourth Saturday of the month. We use stitching and stenciling on our layout in some way. That's all it is. Nothing super stressful or difficult. We just find a way to use it and put it on our layout. Now, I am going to be real honest with you. I totally forgot that this was a Stitches and Stencils layout as I was creating it. So I did the stitching, no problem. But at the very end, I had to go back in and do a little stenciling because I actually had all my video uploaded and everything, and I looked at the calendar and went, oh my gosh, how did I forget that this is Stitches and Stencils Day? I didn't even recognize that this was a layout for a Saturday. I was not paying attention at all. I was just in my happy place creating. So anyway, I am going to use this fabulous Shimmerz paper, and I think that's from Never Grow Up. And I have felt a little bit like using Shimmerz paper since she has come out with her new collection, which I did, of course, buy a bunch of. But I don't feel like I have to hoard her old stuff quite as much just because there might be more coming. I don't know. But I definitely need to make room in my little Shimmerz bins, which are not so little, and so some of the older stuff needs to get used, and I actually do have several sheets of some of these papers, so I thought this would be the perfect one to use. I am using that acrylic piece at the top of the upper left hand corner of the paper there that says Little Things. I'm also using the globe that says Explore on it from our 31 Days of Cutfiles project. And then I am using some shimmers to bring in some teal and some yellow down here in this little area where the globe is going. And I'm just being really taking my time, and I don't want to say puttering around, but just kind of lightly applying the two colors. I really like the way that they look together. I'm going to add a bunch more of that teal, and it's going to look really good when it's done, but I'm just going really slow, enjoying the whole process. Okay, so the colors that I'm using, I'm going to hold them up later, but the yellow is called Meet Me at Sunset. The blue-green one is called Blue Lagoon, and then I'm going to add one that has that pinkish color, and that one's called Beats Me. These are all Shimmerz products. I'm not sure if they're Inklings or Creamies off the top of my head, but they are from the Shimmerz Paints brand. So I will put links down below for those in case you're interested in that. And you can find them over at their website. I love them because they come dry. You just spray some water in them. Use your paintbrush just like you would a watercolor palette, a dry watercolor palette. And then you leave them to dry again, and you can use them until you run out. And I've had these for quite a while, and I really love them. I use this turquoisey color like all the time, you guys. All the time. It's probably my favorite color in the whole selection that I have. I think it's really beautiful, and it's got a really beautiful shimmer to it. So really like it. Okay, so I'm just going to keep working on this little mixed media area. I'm going to rough up the edges of my paper using my distress tool from MK's shop, Some Assemblage Required. I believe she's out of stock on these right now, but you can go and put your name on it, and it will give you a notification of when she has them back in stock. So that's always an option. I am just splattering a little bit more of this Blue Lagoon color. I'm going to splatter some of the yellow, and then I'm going to add some of the Beats Me color, which is pink, in just a moment here. And I'm going to add that as a splatter as well. So I don't want the Beats Me to be super overwhelming. I just want it to kind of have a splattering of it so it brings the pink down in this area. And I'm using a fan brush, which is going to give me a much finer splatter than my regular watercolor brush would. And that is it, you guys. Pretty simple mixed media there, but I really like the way that it looks, and I like that it kind of tones down the paper because the paper is a very bold pattern and has a lot going on, so I like that. Now I am using some Catherine Pooler ink in, I'm not even sure what color. I'm sure I'm going to hold it up at some point here, but I am just inking up my cut file. I want it to be that dark teal color, same as the paper, to bring in the depth of color over to my mixed media area, because honestly the white was a little bit more difficult to see, and I really like the way that it looks with this teal color added over the top. I'm going to keep my embellishments really simple on this, so I don't think it's going to take me a real long time to finish the entire layout, but I really like the outcome. And obviously I'm using my fan brush here to splatter more of this dark teal color all over the mixed media area, and I really like the way that it just brings in more of that same color and ties it all together. So my title is going to be Explore the Little Things. I will be adding the word the in there. But for right now, I'm just testing it out with the acrylic piece and the cut file to make sure the mixed media covers the area that I wanted it to cover. And sure enough, it did. And so I'm going to go ahead and put my pattern paper down, and I'm being conscientious to use my liquid glue to adhere my pattern paper because I know I'm going to be doing stitching, and stitching through my ATG tape is not so great for the needle. It makes your needle a little sticky and gummy over time, and so I prefer to use liquid glue to hold things down where I'm going to stitch. Now sometimes I don't make that decision ahead of time and I end up having to stitch over the ATG tape, but for the most part I really try not to. So there's the layout with the stitching added. I stitched around the pattern paper, you can see that arch there, and then I stitched the bottom corner that didn't have pattern paper as well. And I did have a little bit of problem here, in case you're wondering why there's so many strings right there that I'm kind of fixing there, is because my bobbin thread ran out and I had to go and redo some of the stitching because I didn't realize it right away. And if you're wondering about that photo, that is the little girl that I take care of. And I actually had brought her to visit my niece's little girl. So that is actually on the sidewalk in front of, or between my house and my mom's house. And there was a snail going across there, and he was all stretched out with his little antenna sticking up and everything. And she just squatted down to look at it. And she sat there looking at it for quite a while. And I said, "Oh, you're looking at this." I said, "Oh, what are you looking at?" And she says, "I don't know. What is that?" And I'm like, "That's a snail. Haven't you seen a snail before?" And she's like, "Not like that." So apparently she's only ever really seen them when they're still inside their little snail shell. She's never seen them all stretched out. And so she was fascinated by it. The actual funny thing is, in her hand, she actually has a bag of pesto sauce, which is kind of funny because that was like the first thing her mom noticed in the photo. It's like she's carrying around her bag of pesto sauce because she really loves pesto pasta, but she also really loves the pesto pasta that I make. So the pesto sauce is actually homemade. My husband used to grow a lot of pesto or basil, and so we would make it homemade. And so she has a frozen bag of pesto sauce in her hand, and she's carrying it between houses because she wanted to take some home with her. So yeah. Anyway, there's my title, Explore the Little Things. And I just used the pre-made Shimmerz flowers from her Never Grow Up collection. They're the perfect match because they're made for that collection. And then I pulled in a camera that says Snap on it from her Glitter Girl collection, and that little sticker that says Wonder, I believe that is also from her Glitter Girl collection. And then I think the hearts might be from Head in the Clouds. So I'm using several of her collections here, and the nice thing is almost all of her collections you can mix and match in between some way or another. because they all have very similar colors in them, even though they don't look anything alike. So I'm really happy with the way that this came out. I'm adding a few sequins just to finish it off. I'm not sure what Sandy or MK have over on their channels today, but go and take a look and see what they're doing for stencils and stitches, or stitches and stencils, as it is actually really called, stitches and stencils. And I know MK is also using a cut file because she's doing 31 days of cut files. And go and join that Facebook group if you haven't already. So this is where I realized that I didn't do any stenciling. So I pulled out this Kaisercraft stencil, and unfortunately it's too big for what I want, but I didn't realize that until I already put some of the ink through. I'm using some Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide ink, and I did the P, and then I'm like, okay, well, maybe the O will come out better. And then I was really afraid that I ruined my whole layout. But I was able to kind of salvage it by pulling out this Paige Evans stencil that has much smaller flowers on it. And it's got some dots and other things like that. So the P and the O have a little bit more inking in it than I would have liked. But I'm going to do the other letters to finish it off. And it looks much better with just the stencil from Paige Evans instead of that Kaisercraft one. So that was my bad call, but I'm going to just go with it because the rest of it is fine. If I wasn't the one who made it, I probably wouldn't even notice. But because I'm the one who made that bad call, I of course know. But I don't think she's going to ever know. And this layout is for her album. And so I think she's going to be happy with it. And I'm just going to leave it as is. I am using this super tiny blending brush just to make sure I get inside all of those letters. I was also a little afraid that I was going to get right on top of that teal and kind of make a mess of it, but I didn't. I managed to do okay. And by the time I did the P and the O, I was already committed. So you might as well just go with it and see what happens. And worst case, I guess I would be pulling that white piece off and redoing it. But I think it looks okay, you guys. I hope you do too. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have questions or comments, you can leave those down below and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. I thank you so much for spending some time with me today, and I hope that you come back and see me tomorrow for another video. I will be live on Tuesday over in the 31 Days of Cut Files group, so go and join that if you're not already part of it, and see me then. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.